Hey folks, it's Lindsey Huddleston with Sports Psychology Solutions back in the building. Another SPS Edge Show with my great, capable co-host Terry McCord Jr. and also thanking Coach Orlando Watkins, Nassau keeping us together as we are Houston and he's Nassau, always keeping us connected. Man, what a show we have for you today. I also want to shout out the Streets Are Talking Podcast Network. You will hear us on the podcast network. Shout out to Don Houston and Clarence, my boy, my guys. But Terry, man, they're trying to kidnap Big Gretch. They're trying to, then we've seen the fly of all flies showed up to interrupt the vice presidential debate. And then, another brother dead in Houston, in Texas, at the hands of the police, unarmed black man. And it's an interesting backstory on this individual because he had some conflicting views. And I'll definitely express my opinion with all due respect to the young man who lost his life. But Terry, what's going on out here, man?
A lot of this. You definitely see people are slowly starting to title these militia groups as I've been waiting to happen. I mean, you see these different tactics that you see that Middle Eastern people are doing in the Middle East, and we were quick to label them as terrorists. I hear people in school when I was in high school calling Black Panthers terrorists. So I mean, it's just crazy to think that it's been this long to now that we're switching these names from militia groups to terrorists. So I mean, it's been great reads, just being more aware of what's been going on, and just happy to be able to voice my opinion and educate others about what's going on.
Yeah, as you talk, I want to go, and this is going to be the benefit of our viewers who are watching this show as I share the screen. Shout out to a couple of my guys who shared this, but that's where we at right now. And for
Yep.
our listeners on our podcast, the streets are watching. What I put up here is what's the guy from the Family Guy's name? What's the dad's name? Terry, I don't
Oh
know his name.
man, I never really got into that.
Okay, that's fine. I'm
Dang,
not
I
into it like that,
forgot.
but we got a picture of him that I'm sure many people will see circling the internet, and it's him with his AR-15, and then there's this sign that says, militia, and it shows all these light skin hues. It's almost like if you were getting some paint mix, it'll be white, off white, and a little tan, and then when you get under the line, it talks about gang of terrorists, and what do you see, Terry?
You see African American, you see the Mexican color, you see Middle Eastern, and the guy's name Peter Griffin.
Peter
Peter
Griffin,
Griffin,
yeah,
yeah,
thank you, Terry. Yeah,
yeah.
and basically what this is just saying is, why are these guys not considered a gang? Why has the militia always had this passing? Oh, they're a militia, like they're okay. And even when they were talking about the plot that the FBI foiled, one of the persons who knew the ringleader, he said, "Oh, I knew he was in a militia, but I didn't know he would do that." It's like, and before I go any further, Terry, I think it's important. The SPS Edge is a show that's focused on sports and the psychology of sports, but we can't help but deal with these everyday issues. But I think it's important from an athlete's mind to just anyone's mind, for the sake of their mental toughness and their mental health, man, to be able to talk through these things, man. And I'm not
Right.
bringing these subjects up not only because they're timely, but I think that as we try to get and be the best version of ourselves, not necessarily, and just best version of being citizens in the world and taking care of our family and all that. I mean, it's worth talking about these topics like that. And just to stay on this for a minute, I think it's something to be said. Now, I'll go back, and for those who are watching, here are the faces. And actually, this is not all of them. This is just 5 of them in triplicate. So you're seeing the same guys, and there's another row of guys. But it's all white males. And as the Southern Poverty Law Center that does all the research on terrorism and domestic terrorism, they said white males and these militias are the biggest terrorist threat to America. This is a national security concern. This is a national security concern. So I just think it's so contradictory and so hypocritical that this idea is placed on people of color and these minorities when we go back to this image that gangs and terrorists are the problem. But the militia is a terrorist group. And to be honest, man, to get at the root of their cause, my man is saying he's mad, man, because he can't go to the gym because of the coronavirus lockdown that the government instituted. And the last thing I'll say, Terry, to get your thoughts, I have to agree with this part too. And maybe as an African-American man, my lens is more so looking at the world through the racism that Black men and Black people may experience, but not the sexism part. When have you ever heard of kidnapping a male leader? Because she's a female, does that make her seem weaker? But it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female or a toddler sitting in that seat. I know the state police. I know their protocols. I know how they get down. And you're going up against other men and women who are capable of thwarting what you're about. Now, the other part of it is, do you have people who are complicit? Are there people in the state police who are, complicit with the political ideologies that Trump, I mean, there are clearly supporters that are Trump people with that. So I just say, man, I think this image is powerful. We're dealing with a domestic terrorist act taking place in the state of Michigan. I don't see the benefit in having an overthrown government. I just don't see that. Terry, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I wanted to point out, I was talking to my mom today about it, and she was saying, we laugh a lot about the law and order joke. And my thing is, in question is, if we're so concerned about law and order, where is the law and order condemning these acts? I mean, we see times and times again. I was reading through the history about the different militia groups. I mean, we're talking about back to the time of like Obama wasn't president, and then even going further back on, like where they keep re-rising the different concerns where we're either striving for, social injustice, like striving for social justice as people. And it's crazy to me that we're not holding these people accountable. Like, I feel like they should be public enemy number one. I mean, we're talking about people bringing people together and, taking strides and, and bringing unity. But it's almost like I read on bringing unity for the wrong reasons. I mean, they're encouraging violent action on states that aren't following the Constitution. And I kind of chuckled at that because, I mean, I hear a lot of people saying it's very unconstitutional. And to me, hearing that, the Constitution is a very key and piece, a part of our law. And part of me just really thinks that, do we need to make a different one? Because if being safe and being concerned about others' safety and taking these, even though they are a little conservative, actions that have clearly been successful. And I think it's crazy to think that that's unconstitutional. Having to ask you to wear your mask or not be able to do these habits that everyone is having to do. I mean, it's a little entitlement, because it's like, what makes you think that you can do this and I can't? Everyone is following these same rules. So why can't you comply with these rules? And if that is unconstitutional, then we need to read and go through this and redo and maybe ratify or, redo the Constitution. Because it does not make any sense to me how being concerned of others and not wearing a mask. And I wanted to clear the air. Wearing a mask is not keeping you safe from the virus. It's keeping your germs to you. When you are sick, you wear a mask to keep your germs away from them. So I know I see a lot of stuff going around saying masks don't keep you safe. I've been wearing a mask and I still got COVID. No, you need to encourage your buddies, your grandparents, your family, anyone around you to wear these masks so they can keep their stuff with them so they don't share it. So that's really, I'm really frustrated, and I hate seeing that these people, come up with these very dumb excuses, man, to not wear. Like, I work at a local grocery store in town, Value Land, and it just blows my mind away, man, that people are fussing at us, because we're following protocol, asking to wear a mask or, to keep our store safe and to keep our workers safe, like myself. And they're refusing to comply with it. You're shopping for 5 minutes. I'm here for 6 hours. Like, don't come to me saying about this mask stuff and being frustrated with it. Like, come on, let's follow the rules. Let's do what we're supposed to. Let's follow these guidelines that these elected officials are doing. So it's like, we're talking about law and order, but let's follow the law and the order that's being applied. So it's a lot of different views and different standards. I almost would have called it a double standard, but I mean, it's been really frustrating. As you can see, the emotions coming out a little bit. But
I appreciate your passion,
crazy,
man. I appreciate that. You touched on a lot of great things. I think, one thing when you talk about changing the Constitution, I think the Constitution is fine. You have these select constitutional experts They want to be
Right.
selective on what they choose to focus on. So with this plot, from what I understand in the early part of this, that they were trying to kidnap the governor, take her to Wisconsin and put her on trial.
Right.
So okay, so like where's your state pride? Like you won't even keep her in the state of Michigan? You want to overthrow the, or this idea that the 200 or so of those militiamen were going to storm the Capitol and take hostages. Okay, what happens after you take hostages? Does somebody die? Is it like, you got
Right.
bombs? You want so and then what are you offering that's better? What are you offering?
Exactly. Yeah.
What are you promoting instead of? You're just causing. And then this whole thing, I think it was really important, this part, and it's kind of at the heart of my spirit today, and what kind of message I want to be able to share, Terry, is that, they talk about this whole thing that they want to, protect the Constitution and whatnot, and then cause this civil unrest. They're pushing for civil unrest. And the great thing about that statement is what it's telling me is that many citizens, many Americans, black, white, whatever it may be, are not trying to have a civil war. You know what I'm saying? I know Coach Watkins is busy trying on, nice watches right now. He's not trying to start a civil war. I know you're trying to handle your business. I'm trying to spend time with my daughter and have it. I'm not in the mood for that. I don't have no taste for that. But also, Terry, I must say this. Boy, oh boy, I think they underestimate how people are prepared for that. And I'm not trying to brag on my own, but I use myself as an example. And even with me having a former military background and whatnot, don't think that people are not prepared and that people are not looking at what's been happening over time and say, well, let me do what I need to do. And whether that's prepared with weaponry, whether that's prepared with a mind of a weapon. And Terry, that's where you are in your life right now, that how you're thinking. But I really think, man, and I was encouraged when I saw you put on social media, your kickball event that was coming up that you were promoting. Because I think we need to be encouraged to be able to just think positive. And I'm not saying we look at the ways of the world, and we'll talk about that later when we get to the next case, that we're going to talk about later on in the show. But also, the point I want to make, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is that I'm thinking about the profile of these young men. And there are relatively young men, as we look at the shared screen right now, white males, and I think the other shows pretty much the same profile. So it's funny to me because despite what their background is, their visual, their faces, they all can have a different experience in America than you and I, man. Just off the fact that they're white. Muhammad Ali recently there was a recirculation of an interview on a British talk show, or a talk show that Muhammad Ali did, and I'll say the short version of it. A white woman from England claimed that she had minority status over Muhammad Ali, and he said, "You can go open a business anywhere. You can do anything you want unabridged." So I look at these men, and if you put a suit on them and you walk them into a bank, there's probably a good chance they'll get steered in the right direction. So it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me, Terry, that they claim that the world is so difficult right now for them, that it's so hard that they want to go as far as to overthrow the government, a state government, which is having implications. We think about it, the feds had to get involved with this. So they're saying, no, it's not just a state matter. This is a federal issue. We got to get you guys. You guys are facing life in prison. So I say all that to say, man, it's amazing what people are thinking and what they're going through. But I do feel encouraged on this day that civil war is not what we all want. It's not what we all trying to do, and I just think it's really important right now that we keep a positive mindset going forward.
Got to.
So, man, that, was a significant part to get started. I can't, move on to the next without, thinking about last night's vice presidential debate. And I think that's noteworthy because from a sports standpoint, you hear President Trump talking about because of him, he got, football going again. Later on today, I'm going to be on a call with some of the Michigan State football players. I mean, sports are a part of the fabric of America, and they've been very much a part of this political discussion. And, did you get a chance to catch up with the debate last night or getting the highlights? What did you think about last night?
I did. I did. I watched the whole thing. It was pretty informative, a lot better than the last one. I feel like the presidential debate was a lot of heat thrown, a lot of, it was like a more of like a heat fest. I like to call it, a lot of beef. But this one, we really got answers. I mean, Senator Kamala Harris really came out strong, and and she felt like that black mom. Like it was almost like talking to my mom. She had like that presence, man. Like one thing, like viewers may not know. I mean, having a, you don't talk over your mom, especially not mine. You don't talk over that, that
I
black
know your
mom. You
mom.
don't speak.
I know your
You
mom.
know,
That ain't happening.
she's like, I'm
Never
speaking.
mind.
Let me answer that question.
Hey,
You
you
know what I
know
mean?
what? He didn't want no smoke. Did you see that?
Oh man, I
She
mean
said, I'm
none.
speaking and looked at him. He didn't want no smoke. Wow.
I mean, it was that presence, man. And right now she's going against the winners from last year, so she kind of had that swagger into it. Like, I know he gonna be coming at me, and his boy was coming at my guy, so I gotta come out. I gotta know what I'm talking about. I gotta be ready. These are my things. This is what I want to say. And she was ready. I mean, I feel like Pence was kind of more of a. I thought it was funny. He had a question about climate change, and he went back to a previous question that because the the mediator at the time kept trying to tell him to stop, and they moved on to the climate question, and he used his time for the climate question to go back to the topic. So I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of funny, but I thought it was really well. I feel like we got a lot more out of it. Rules were definitely put in play. You saw them follow the more rules. I think towards the end, you could feel the tense. It got a little bit more tense. Where people wanted to keep talking longer than what they were supposed to. And Senator Harris wanted her time back. She said, "I want the equal
Smart.
time."
She played it right. She said,
And
okay, well, give me
so
equal time, and
yeah, all right.
and to the moderator, still like what really bothered me the most about that that really bothered me is that the vice president of the United States purposely talked over that moderator every time. And he was sending a message saying, I am a white man and I can do whatever, and you can't tell me anything as a woman or anyone, no matter what your role is. And I think that's horrible. I think that's unfortunate because what that is saying that in this world that we live in, this society, that there is this so-called superior being or superior group of individuals that, and then that's why I got out of politics, man. No civility. Because the point I was at is the Mike Pence of the world get cussed out like, hey man, even as I observed, I said, you gonna just continue to talk over her like that? I said, that's just wrong. I mean, that would be my stance to say, wait a minute, politics aside, you are purposely talking over her to exert some far fake authority or some idea of superiority, and it's stupid. But thank God for insects and flies, right? Because as I'm watching, I'm looking, I'm like, it's a fly on his head. And it wasn't like, is it really a fly? I was like, I'm not surprised. Here it is, vice presidential debate. You're being a total, whatever name you want to use, and I won't use any foul language, just out of respect for our platform. He's being that. And the best way to show how horrible he's being is that of all things, a fly come and rest on your white hair. So there's no question, it's a fly. And it was there for a very long time. And people were automatically able to make the connotation and the connection between flies and feces, between flies and dung, between flies and, as my daughter would say, boo-boo. So for all of your actions, Vice President Pence, and being that way, and you look pretty sick to me. If Corona had a look, he had it, because you start looking at his eyes, and like, his eyes had that unwell look. So,
Oh yeah.
just watching that whole thing, man, I don't get mad anymore, Terry. I just try to be informed, and I try to put myself in a position to say, you know what, I'm not gonna let these people impact my quality of life. Because if you pull into it, you do. So I don't know what
Right.
you think, man.
I just want to say, like, I misspoke, moderator. My bad. I misspoke on that. But next, it was kind of funny. So I had I have a LIT, leaders in training meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about loving one another and being in trying to work in the way of Christ. And our topic was loving, and he went around the room and he had us write down someone we wanted to love more. And I said, the opposing group, the opposing group, meaning those who um, may not think or feel the same way about me. And that's a big thing that I think has been affecting me the most lately is just, thinking of how do they view me, meaning the opposing racist side, and how I can, try and reduce that as much as I can. And coming home and watching this, it was almost like it came right back into my face, hearing what he was saying, and it was hard to watch. I've definitely gotten better, and a lot of times just thinking and growing up is like this is really a part of the world, and I knew it growing up that it was, but sometimes it's just like it surprises me every day how worse and how things could get, and it was really cool to see. I like you, his eyes did not look like he did not look like he got enough rest. He looked stressed out, and I think when he got stressed out and got in those tough moments, he kind of like veered away from the question and started talking about, well, we're gonna do this, vote for Trump, punching that ticket, and it's kind of like he went to that, informative side to the marketing side. They're gonna do this to the Supreme Court's vote Trump, and she was like, this is the question, we're gonna give this, we're gonna give these straight facts, and it's just funny how him and Trump kind of had the same kind of demeanor during the debate. I mean, constant picking at certain things they were saying instead of establishing their own kind of standards of what the questions were asked. And it's it's almost like they didn't have much to say. And it surprises me because it's like, they've been in office for about 3.5 years now. And now it's like you guys don't have enough to say about these concerns that have not gone away. I mean, these problems have been here. I mean, you're talking about climate change, social injustice, white terrorists. I mean, we're talking about same issues that are still here. And it's almost like you guys have no say in this right now. I mean, I know the economy is super important, but we're talking about basic human life right here. I mean, we're talking about hate groups, and we're talking about those that are pushing for people to have equal opportunities. It's like, how does that not cross your mind? And that's where it comes like the entitlement, where these people don't have to face those kind of things. And so it's almost like it's not a problem for them. So they're not going to really care. And that kind of brings me up to the next topic. But it's like, no one, like, again, like we mentioned before, but no one likes to think about uncomfortable things that have nothing to do with them. And it's like, it makes no sense because you're the president of the United States, the land of the free, but you don't want to push for that narrative though, land of the free. Part of being free, you have these opportunities, you have a chance to freely express yourself, whether no matter what the opposing view may be. But a lot of times people don't feel that. And it's almost like you're the face of our nation and you don't want to push for those equalities for everyone.
They are definitely focused on their base.
Oh yeah.
You got to look at, if you want to learn about the base of a president, look at where he pulls the vice president from. Conservative governor
Right.
from Indiana. If you really think about it, Indiana don't really come out much because that's just a quiet conservative state. And and it's unfortunate that they are also appealing to a very racist, volatile group of individuals who have gone on to arm themselves and decided to create their own law. Because my thing is, you got the Wolverine militia, you got the Oath Keepers, you got Proud Boys, you got all these different entities. Well, if they all decide to go down and do what they're gonna do, well, who's gonna run what? Are they gonna be in agreement? Absolutely not. That's why we have to have a universal government that we can all try to use to our benefit. It's ironic, and our listeners on the streets of watching podcasts can't see this, but all those who are watching us on our platforms, whether it's YouTube, Coach Orlando Watkins, AAU platform, your great friends and followers and whatnot, I'm wearing an American flag on my USA basketball polo. And I'm conscious of wearing that. And I wear it now almost as a sign of silent protest. It's almost like it speaks to the hypocrisy of America because the imagery is like you are a black man portraying the standard of America. You're wearing the American flag when you represent a group of individuals who have totally been taken advantage of in this country. And I guess that's an excellent segue to our next topic, which is talking about what took place in Wolf, Texas, just within the last week. Another unarmed black man was killed by police. There's no body cam footage released at this point, but it's been very clear that when this young man, Jonathan Price, who was known as a pillar in the community, and that's the sad part. I mean, you hear this story of a guy who reminds me of you, Terry, reminds me of myself, reminds me of Coach Orlando Watkins, remind us of all the young men and women that we come in contact with based on the life path that we've chosen by helping young people through sports. And it's unfortunate, but it's also another unique part of this story too. And I want to put that out there, man. And this is not to disparage this young man, but we looked at it and I seemed to get some more information to support it, but it seemed like he was a very pro-police individual. I think this is worth noting, man. I think this is a very interesting opportunity for us to discuss something interesting. This discussion we can have right now because there was some Facebook social media posts attributed to him that talked about him saying, "Hey, look, the police have looked out for me a lot. They've done things for me. They've let me go." He said that he's been in the wrong. They let him go. Then he went on, and this is deep right here. He went on to say, "Well, for me, white people to a degree have been more beneficial and more of a blessing in my life than my black family." He kind of spoke to that, and I'm trying to be respectful and use some journalistic integrity as we talk about this. But I just think it's so interesting that if any of this is true, what I've been hearing and piecing together, it's unfortunate because even when they say that he attempted to shake hands with the police officer, but this guy who had just started the force in April, prior to that, he was a jailer, so he worked in the jail, and he got out here and he tased this young man and he shot him and killed him, and he's gone. And again, he was a pillar of the community, known for doing the right things. And to be honest, if his political ideology was different as it relates to law enforcement, so be it. But how ironic is it, Terry? Not only that you lose this young man, a mother loses her child, a community loses a great leader, but his whole attitude was that the police won't hurt me. They've helped me, but they end up taking his life, man. The irony in that. What do you think about all that?
Just going off, so I went a little bit more research on the officer, and he, according to Fox News, he was 22 years old and just graduated from the academy in March, and then just got into the department and started. It was employed in the department in April, so he's relatively new, just by off the year and just off the years. But it's hard. I mean, it's like a young guy, and I don't even appreciate his comments about pro police. I mean, those are his views. I respect them, and I respect the family and the loss of his life, and I feel really bad for them. But it's almost like you're trying to be that person to silence those that are saying how they feel in a way. I mean, it's like saying, "Oh, you guys need to watch what you're saying because these guys have looked out for me." And it's like, well, this is not about you, Mr. Price. Like, this is not about you. And I say this out of the deepest, most respect about, about right now, but it's not about you right now. This is about those who have been. And I hate to say this, but a lot of times those people who say that are due for one. As sad as it may say, like, I mean,
hey, Terry, I'm gangster. You said they due for one. Wow.
I mean, it's true. I mean, it's like that guy, you wouldn't tell that guy that he would be in this situation whenever he posted that on social media. You weren't going to tell him that this was going to happen. And as sad as that can sound, it's like you have to be conscious of what's going on. It's almost like he's not really him being a pillar. You would think that he'd be aware of that. Him telling and being like a mentor figure in these communities. It's like you don't want to touch on that. Have you asked the people you're mentoring how's their experience with the police? I mean, that may be something that he's shorted on being their mentor, but it's almost like, it's not all about you. And I think people fail to realize that when they make these posts. Well, I haven't. Well, look at your statement. That's a key word. That's first person perspective. You think of more of a third person objective statement. How are other people doing? How are they doing? I mean, if you're a guy who loves the community, think about your community. I mean, I saw, a lot of people thought of him as like a big brother. I mean, he was a star running back. A lot of people followed him for that in high school. But
Mhm.
then again, it's like, well, speak on behalf of your community. And that's something that I always watch with when I make statements is about unless I have a personal connection. But it's not all about me. It's not all about you. It's not all about him. It's not all about Coach Watkins. It's not all about my dad. It's not about all these different people um, that have been listed or etc. It's not about them. It's all about what the movement is about and what we're trying to do. And I feel like he was kind of stepping in the way of that because of his feelings. And we don't need that. We need all the brothers and sisters to come together. This is a time for unity. It's been it's been far due. I mean, the due date on this assignment has been years and years ago. So we
No,
need to get to it, man. And it just saddens to read that statement. And he even talked about, he's not ashamed to even like white women. And I had no problem with that, but
he
it's just
had
not.
he made those statements too.
It's something about like how he like preferred them. It was like later on. It was in the middle of the statement. I wish I had it with me, but it was so
Yeah.
long I can't write it down. But I mean, it just deteriorating the African American sisters. It's like we're trying to bring these people together, man. It's like you're doing everything but that, and it's sad to see. And I feel bad that he did the right thing in that situation. He was trying to break up a fight, and I really pride him for that. He shouldn't have lost his life, and I feel really saddened when I read it. And it's almost like to have that be his legacy that he put out. It's not really a good thing to have out, man.
No, you're absolutely right, Terry. Excellent points indeed, as you always do. And but to really talk about if what you read and what I was gathering is accurate, it's almost like he developed his own elitist attitude, his own elitist mindset that said,
Right.
despite what's going on in my community, and maybe even the community beyond where they were, because they said their community was a small knit community.
Yep.
I can only imagine if that's the case, he probably was the man. As they say in Friday after I'm a
Right.
hang around here. He
All
probably
right.
was experiencing a level of personal success. He was a city employee. He was a motivational speaker. He was getting ready to open a business. So he had all these things going. But I think you touched on it perfectly. When African Americans detach themselves from the overall African American experience, no matter where you are in the social hierarchy, you are not immune. And I think this is a perfect example of him being in the social hierarchy, that in that small
Right.
town, and I won't be disrespectful or disparage the small town. I don't have a small town experience. I'm from Detroit, as you know, and I'm here in Lansing, East Lansing, but he probably was the man in town. So because of that, and because of the grace that he was able to benefit from, he ended up creating a mindset that was beneficial not to the masses but to him. But also, and saw this in your research, that new police officer wasn't from that community.
No, it wasn't.
Doesn't know who you were. And out here in these streets, it's a dangerous interaction because it doesn't take long to have that interaction. And what they said could have been him trying to shake his hand was so-called perceived as him trying to take his stun gun. And you know how that
Right.
goes. If there's any attitude towards, trying to take this person's life or suppress this person, they're going to go through those quick mental steps. Oh, he's trying to take my stun gun. He's going to try to get my gun. I'm fearing for my life. I got to use deadly force and kill him. And although he was wrong in that, that's after the fact, and this young brother's life is long. So I guess what we can say, or at least what I take from this, Terry, I don't want to develop a hardened attitude. I've been through that stage. I've gone through that stage as a Black man, and that's hard and that's exhausting. And I don't believe I was put on earth to have to feel that way all the time. Now, by me not feeling that way, that doesn't take away from what's happening and what's going on. But I'm at a
Exactly.
place right now that although I got on this call to do this podcast with you with the intent probably maybe 6 hours ago just to focus on who we're talking about now. But look what we got hit with, trying to kidnap Big Gretch. And I know Gretchen. I know Gretchen personally. I have a relationship with her in the sense that it's always been cool. So it's not just to say the governor of the state of Michigan. Then, kind of going back to my background being
Right.
in the governor's administration and knowing how they move. Hell, that could have been me so many years ago as a staffer because they were going to take life. So you hear about this young man, a Black man, being gunned down by police, but then you hear white males planning to overthrow the government, as crazy as that sounds in 2020 here in the state of Michigan, United States of America. And on top of that, you got a vice president who's rude and disrespectful, and you got a literal madman in the White House who's sick with the coronavirus. Who is? Can you imagine President Obama, man? If God forbid something like that would have happened, man, he wouldn't put people at risk. He probably would almost like go to Camp David or something like that. He'll get up out the way, or he'll lay low, or if he would have even got sick, because he would have been doing all the right things. But
exactly.
Here we are, Terry. Here we are as we use the latter part of our time on this podcast. And what I want to do, man, is put out an encouraging word. I'm not coming across right now, man, as a kumbaya. And what I mean by that is saying, oh, let's just love each other. And I think we should. But I'm just saying, man, you know what? Just be ready and don't be scared, man. Whatever point you are, and just really focus on what's really important. Because it's almost like in those Middle Eastern countries, man, when they would have like, a open market and a horrible act of a suicide bomber would come. Terry, do you know in a matter of hours they open those markets back up again? After a suicide bombing in these public areas, in these public squares, no, it is a fact. They get it back popping with all due respect. Later that day, they go through.
I was gonna say, yep.
They bomb threat. Oh, a bomb went off. Oh, wow, people killed. Okay, clean up, do that. Okay, we'll be open. Let's get back open.
That's crazy.
And there's this, and they get right back to it, man. And it doesn't mean we are letting these things go, but I refuse to let the Wolverine militia impact my quality of life. I refuse to let Vice President Pence impact my quality of life. I refuse to let Donald Trump impact my quality of life. I refuse to let any law enforcement officer or any other person trying to exert authority, whether it's appropriate or not, impact my quality of life. Does that mean I can stop what's going to happen when I go out my door? Hell, my mom made a good point, Ted. We can't even stop what happened when we sleeping in our bed. You used to say, maybe I just don't go outside. Nothing happened to me. Rest in peace, Breonna Taylor. You sleep in your bed and something pop off. So I say that to say, man, and we've talked about all these topics, but we're a sports psychology, mental toughness, and mental health show. And when I say all those things, you can see where I'm going with that to say sports is a great thing. And also another thing, here in Michigan, we're getting ready to go close to full capacity for sporting venues in high school sports. They say, let it ride, let it go. They're going to open up the gates. And, with that being said, you can only hope that there's a certain level of caution and social distancing and masking, but you're going to have people who are going to be excited about that horrible plot that was foiled and excited and motivated to get out here and be extreme in their action and behavior. And now that the president of the United States has said he's glad that he got the coronavirus so he can speak from experience, which is the most asinine thing I've ever heard.
That's terrible, man.
Where's your bleach? Go drink the bleach, cuz. Where your bleach at? Go drink the bleach. Or go get that light.
I can't believe he say something like that.
You know what I'm saying? But Terry, we can't believe he said a number of things since day one. And
this ain't the first. No.
But getting back to my point, I want to get your thoughts too, man. I hope sports, if it can't save us, I hope it can really help us a lot. I won't be naive enough to say something other than spiritual and higher thinking and higher acts can move us to a better place. But I think sports plays a significant role because despite all this is going on, when it comes down to sports, you got to be locked in. Despite all this is going on, when it comes down to sport, you got to be focused if you want to be successful. And despite all that's going on, when it comes down to sports, this is something that can help us garner inspiration, help us reach a higher level. And most importantly, man, when it comes down to sports, you got to do it together, man. We're here fighting this coronavirus. We're not fighting it together. We're fighting it individually. We're fighting it in groups. And God forbid, a natural disaster comes where you got to stand toe to toe, side by side, arm by arm, and lay a foundation to stop, a flood or to save, people from burning buildings. I mean, God forbid that we're forced to have to work together. But I say all that to say is that I hope, Terry, that sports and what we're talking about can continue to be a shining light throughout these times. I hope that, more importantly, people like you, I consider myself a young person, but people younger than me, but young, great minds like you, man, can continue to see the good and what you have to do, the positive things you have to do, and be courageous and not fearless. I don't mean like ready to fight, but I'm saying ready to stand up and speak up and say, that's not right, man. This is what we need to do. And it's funny, man, as a kid growing up, Terry, I can remember the times in my evolution as a child where I was a scared kid. Scared. I'm talking about scared if the lightning was too loud or scared. But I
Oh
remember
yeah.
trying to grow up, man, and the more I start adopting principles and beliefs and things that were important to me, man, that gave me courage because I wasn't. It's like you scared when you don't know no better, but when you standing on some principles, man, you go stand on it. You go like,
Right.
look, man, I'm gonna stand or I'm gonna fall on it. And I don't mean to say that with that extreme behavior out there when there's people who want to hurt others. I said, but my God, man, can we all just have a quality of life and move along? So I
Right.
hope that you can continue to have courage and you seem to display those traits and continue to use your intelligence to articulate your thoughts and how you feel. More importantly, man, not let this man stress you out. You know, I'm glad that I'm not caught up in a stressful space because this is the type of stuff that can triggers people's mental health, man, and really make them have bad scenarios. So I said more than a mouthful, man. So I'd love to get your thoughts as we start looking towards the latter part of this hour on the SPS Edge show.
Just in closing, that was a part of my ending message was, just encourage, kind of focusing my end of the spill on, on my Black brothers and sisters, man. I mean, especially the ones that are up and growing. I mean, this is the time, these are crazy moments. I mean, we're talking about COVID, let alone COVID, not being able to graduate, starting our new level of life, starting building that foundation. I like to call this area of building a foundation. I mean, things may not be shown and, you know, and I haven't made, haven't touched my goals quite yet, but this is an area where I build that foundation, get to know myself, and it's tough, having these things be the way that they are. You see it as a young kid that expresses his opinions and, stepping up and for my people and just seeing militia groups and for other people out there that may feel the same, don't be afraid. I mean, this is what these groups are for. They're terrorist groups. They're supposed to fear you. They're supposed to put fear in you to not want to continue to speak out and just be quiet and dribble, as I say for NBA players, or shut up and make touchdowns for NFL players, or to shut up and mind your own business for Black people that are being successful and that have made some money and got a little access to capital. That's their job to put fear in our hearts. That's their job. Are we gonna let them? No, we shouldn't let them. It's my job right now in this moment to empower you to feel that way, and it's my job to feel that way and to stand on it and be genuine about it. And it's tough, as hard as it may seem to say and feel these emotions and put them together and speak to you right now. It's hard to do it on a daily basis. Pick your heads up. These are times where we are coming together. Don't let this bring you down. Weaponize your mind. That's the one I want to focus on. Weaponize your mind. I like to say this all the time, but the biggest terror to this world and white supremacy is a black intellect. And I like to say that I am one. And I know that I can bring fear to society and order because of the different values and I bring, and to bring social justice to my people and other people I know that I speak to a lot feel the same. But we got to stay together and we got to continue to push on because they're not gonna stop. They've been here for years, like we said. They're always gonna be here, but we can't let that stop us, man. That's all I gotta say.
You make some excellent points there. I appreciate you say weaponize your mind. That's the one weapon you definitely want to have. And I think when you weaponize your mind, you can see it for what it is. And you said it right, out of the mouth of babes. With all due respect to you, Terry, you said it. That's their job to terrorize and scare people. I mean, their whole, protest at the state capitol was to overwhelm people with shock and awe. You see their long
Yep.
guns. My
Yep.
experience in the military, my experience dealing with weapons, I have a different kind of familiarity with it. But their whole thing was to show up with that whole thing with their mask on. Not their mask for
Mhm.
those reasons, but to cover their face because they can't
Yep.
stand up and be who they are right now. They can't openly do it. But when they get in mass, when group that mob mentality takes over, and people who wouldn't normally have the courage to that, so be it. If that's the case, why do you want to overthrow your fellow man? Why don't you go and find these these international threats to America? If you're so patriotic, You know what I'm saying? You're trying to overthrow your own government. I mean, again, I know that's probably been the whole basis of their existence. Their whole thing was, oh, you're taking advantage of me and you're treating me this way. Shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up.
1700s. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Back when King George.
And then the whole right to bear arms, it comes and said, to form with the militia, not to fight the state, is to support the state. So that's when I say they are selective constitutional experts, Terry. They pick and choose what part of the Constitution they want to use and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are treasonous acts, if you want to really go there.
Yeah.
Treason. You have become an enemy of the state. I bet you benefit from those taxpayer roads that you live on and all this stuff and all the stuff that's going on in the Capitol. So many things you benefit from. And the crazy part about it is so many people rather trade their hand in and be them. Young white male in America, where is it that you can't go? You can even come into a black community, and if you come the right way, you could get well received.
Exactly.
You come into a black community acting right. Now, I guess not acting white, to be honest, but acting right, you come into a black community, we'll receive you because that's what people is on, despite all that's taking place. And if you came into a black community, and there were people in that community that were negative to you, there's a good chance the overwhelming majority of that community would denounce those people, say, no, man, come on, what you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you really went in there talking about you needed something, you really said, man, I need this, I need some water, I need some food, I need some help. And we will receive you like that. But, either way, it's not so much to me now, Terry, about what's wrong and what's right. It's about how do I execute what I need to execute? How do I do what I need to do, man? As a father, you'll get this experience, later in life, man. All you want to do is do the best you can for your children and your child, in my case. And fortunately, through technology, God forbid, if anything took me away from here unexpectedly and suddenly, if my daughter so chose, she can just type her daddy name and she'll have enough footage to listen to my ideologies and hear me talk about her and say her name. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that you almost got to think like that. I mean, dude, as young black males, we almost got to think like, we almost got to be like entertainers and be legendary right now, because there ain't no telling. Like, I knew Terry, he was a good brother, but he went to the store to take some bottles back and they killed him. You know what I'm saying? Like something crazy. Right. Or, something whack. Terry was at his job and they came up in the job and they end up, you know what I'm saying, something crazy randomness. So when you live with that as a potential part of your brain, what does that do to your psyche, man? I just only want to encourage my brothers not to get caught up to where they get stuck by no fault of their own, based on nothing they're doing other than their black skin and their black experience. So let's use sports to, one, give us a great mental outlet, whether we're playing it, coaching it, watching it, talking about it. Let us use that, because that is the one constant meritocracy in America that we continue to see, that if you do the right thing for the most part, you come in first, you'll get acknowledged for that, for the most part, we know. So with that, man, Terry, I appreciate you having you as this co-host. I appreciate Coach Orlando Watkins. I do want us to be able to continue to stay on the theme of sports, but I think when you talk about all these things that I pull right from the headlines, you have to be able to talk about these things in the context of life. And sports is a part of life. So if there's stuff going on in the world, like Tom Izzo would always say, whenever there was a problem or he felt something was going on with his players, he almost always wanted to know what was going on off the court. And in many cases, the problem they were having on the court was tied into what was going on off the court. And I think many of us can recognize that once we start addressing and dealing with the problems off the court, off the field, not only will we get better quality of life when it comes to the sports we enjoy and play and watch and talk about, but it'll just be a better quality of life overall. But there's work to be done. I'm glad to be in the trenches with a young man like you, people like Coach Orlando Watkins, the Streets is Talking podcast network with Don Houston and Clarence Barbour. We got some great people, man, involved in it. So if you're listening, keep supporting the SPS Edge. You can go to the website at www.thespsedge.org. You can go to www.thestreetsoftalking.com to hear our podcast, particularly on Saturday and Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go to the SPS Edge on Instagram as well as to the SPS Edge as well. You can catch us on Facebook at 6 p.m. and you can go on the Michigan AAU. That's Coach Orlando Watkins, who's doing an amazing job keeping us connected. And I know you also got your Twitter handle. You got the SPS Edge, but you also have Terry at terry.mccord15. That's with you on Twitter. That's you on Instagram as well, Terry. Is there
Yep.
any other places that you land in? You can also get you on Facebook at Terry McCord. Is that pretty
Right.
much covered for you, Terry?
Yeah, I'm pretty simple. I keep it short and sweet, easy to find me. Terry McCord, favorite number. So
Yeah, favorite number. Well, you've done an excellent job, man. So with that, we're going to get ready to sign off. We want to thank you guys for supporting the SPS Edge. We'll keep you connected with what's going on, and hopefully the words that we shared today could be an inspiration to you, despite all that's going on in this world. We want you to be the best version of yourself every day, and that can happen. So, Terry, I want to thank you. I want to thank you too, Coach Watkins, and we'll sign off. We'll catch you guys next week.